Today we're talking about constant of proportionality in Unit 5, Lesson 3. And I'm hoping that not having my webcam picture on there will help that problem we had in the last video with it not doing what it's supposed to do. Got my fingers crossed. So constant of proportionality is actually the same thing as a unit rate. And it's all about proportional relationships, which means that they are equivalent ratios. So constant, as you know, constant means that it doesn't change. So now we know two things that we have to talk about constants. The constant's just a number, and constant of proportionality, which means it's that number that's the ratio of the proportional relationship. And we learned in the last lesson that a unit rate is a ratio where the x, which is the bottom number, I'll write that in just a second, where the x is 1. So we're going to be using this quite a bit, and our numbers are going to have y's and they're going to have x's, and the y will always go on top when you divide. So the y is always the numerator, the x is always the denominator. And this will be both in a table and in a graph. First, we're going to start with finding the constant of proportionality, the unit rate, in a graph, or in a table, I'm sorry. So for each one, we take the y divided by the x point. On this one, we don't have to worry about it because 0, it's just going to be 0. So we just skip the 0, 0 point. And it's always y divided by x. I don't know why they always put it upside down for some reason. So 3 divided by 1 is going to be 3. 6 divided by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is still 3. And then 9 divided by 3, 9 divided by 3 is still 3. So when you divide the y divided by x, if it is a proportional relationship, then they will all be equivalent. So we got 3. So that means that 3 is our constant of proportionality. Now try the next example and check it with your Edpuzzle video. So you can check your example with mine. Remember that the 0.4 means that that's repeating, and you would just round that to 0.4. Now we're going to talk about the equation. So we talked about table, we're going to talk about equation. Equations are written in the form y equals kx, where y is that same y here, x is here, and then the k is whatever you get for your constant of proportionality. I don't know why they use the letter k. In 8th grade, it looks like y equals, no, I thought everything was fixed, and I was doing it again. Y equals mx. I don't know why they have two different letters, but we do have two different letters. K is what we use in 7th grade. So now that we know it's y equals kx, go back to these examples, I and w, and we need to write the equation for the constant of proportionality. I'm going to do this one because it's harder, and then you're going to do I. So I know that I got 0.4 repeating. That will round to 0.4. So my equation for this one is y equals 0.4x. You just take whatever your constant is, whatever you get for all of them when you divide, and put it in the k spot. So y equals 0.4x. Now you try letter I, and then we're going to go to graphs. I was having some technical difficulties. It's not wanting to work at all now. So here's a good point. Hopefully it works for me. So this is a good point where it crosses over the intersection, and it's always y over x. So 4 is our y point because that's the 4. 1 is our x point. So we find out that in this question, the constant of proportionality is 4. That means it goes up $4 every 1 pound, $4 every 1 pound. And our equation is y equals 4x. Now try this next example on your own and check it with a video. So also, if you look on this example, I just wanted to show you that it doesn't matter what point you pick, as long as you pick a perfect point where it crosses over, you're going to get the same answer when you divide, because we can tell right away that this is a proportional relationship because it's a straight line and it goes through a 0, so we should get the same number every time we divide. And now the last thing, we need to talk about some different names for constant of proportionality. I don't know why we can't just leave everything with the same name, but they have to rename all sorts of stuff. So constant of proportionality is also going to be called the unit rate, which we already know. You also might hear it called the rate of change. And another name is the slope. So those are three different names that are also the constant of proportionality.